Europe is stuck in limbo, confused and frustrated, and even shaken by the idea that the US might actually make them pay for their own defense. The very thought has sent shockwaves through the EU, and now they're scrambling to win over Trump in every possible way. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, but some of these moves are just downright ridiculous. And this one? It's the funniest one yet. In a bizarre twist, some European leaders are actually suggesting kicking the US out of NATO. Yes, you read that right. They think they can push America out of an alliance it practically built. Europe's NATO members are devising a long term plan to gradually reduce their reliance on the United States as their primary defense guarantor, aiming to take on greater responsibility for their security over the next 5 to 10 years. According to a report by the Financial Times, the initiative is being spearheaded by key European powers, including the UK, France, Germany, and Nordic nations, in response to growing concerns that the US may scale back or even abandon its NATO commitments under a second Donald Trump presidency. The proposed plan, which is still in its early stages, seeks to shift the financial burden of the alliance back to Europe. Four unnamed officials told FT that the goal is to present a structured proposal to the US ahead of NATO's annual summit in The Hague this June. European leaders are hoping that a well managed transition over several years could prevent an abrupt American withdrawal from the alliance. However, they acknowledge that the timeline of 5 to 10 years is highly ambitious and difficult to implement. One official admitted that increasing defense spending is the only viable strategy to address Trump's concerns, stating, "Burden sharing and shifting the dial away from the US reliance is our only play. We're starting those talks, but the scale of this task is overwhelming." The plan reportedly includes ramping up military capabilities and significantly increasing defense budgets, potentially as a way to convince Trump to support a gradual transition rather than pushing for an immediate US disengagement. Trump has demanded that NATO members raise the defense spending to 5% of GDP, more than double the current alliance target of 2%. The US Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, reinforced Washington's position, declaring that the US will no longer tolerate an imbalanced relationship and will instead prioritize Europe taking full responsibility for its own security. Despite the growing momentum behind the plan, there is no consensus among European nations. Some countries fear that engaging in such discussions might inadvertently accelerate an American exit from NATO, leaving Europe vulnerable. Others doubt whether the US would even agree to a structured transfer of military responsibilities, given the unpredictable nature of Trump's leadership. In parallel to NATO discussions, the European Union has also taken steps to strengthen its independent defense capabilities. Earlier this month, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called for the creation of a defense union within the EU. Additionally, the bloc has provided a major defense spending initiative known as Rearm Europe, a plan that could mobilize up to 800 billion euros in debt financing and tax incentives to boost Europe's military-industrial complex. Ultimately, the idea of Europe replacing the US as NATO's backbone is almost comical. They're scrambling to appease Trump while simultaneously trying to push him out. Talk about some mixed signals. A 5 to 10-year transition? Even they admit it's wildly ambitious. Trump, watching from the sidelines, is probably laughing at the irony. For years, he's demanded Europe to step up. And now they're floating the idea to kick the US out. It's a desperate gamble, one he might just enjoy watching unfold.